Please
Come
give me
here.
a little space.
Come here. Come here.
I'm creating
I'm going
space.
to check your eyes to make sure that you haven't been drinking.
No, sir, you're not.
Yes, sir, I am.
No, sir, you're not.
Yes, sir, I am.
No, you're not.
This isn't just about one person. This could happen to anyone. The moment we ignore violations like this, we allow them to continue.
The sidewalk looks ordinary, concrete, a low curb, a public building behind glass that reflects the sky. Nothing about the scene suggests danger. That's what makes the moment unsettling. Authority doesn't arrive loudly here. It arrives casually, a voice that assumes permission, a step closer that narrows space. Control begins not with force, but with certainty. The camera captures a posture that doesn't ask. It positions. Feet planted, shoulders squared. The gap between two people closes just enough to change the tone. From that point forward, the day is no longer neutral. The balance has shifted. The man on the sidewalk has already explained himself. Not once, but calmly, repeatedly. His body is open, his hands are visible. He stands where anyone could stand. He does not rush. He does not retreat. He does not perform fear. That refusal to perform is read as defiance. Authority often mistakes calm for challenge. The officer's attention narrows, not to behavior, but to compliance. The question is no longer what is happening. The question becomes whether the person in front of her will submit to a process she has already decided must occur. The presence of a camera hardens that decision. Cameras do that. They remove the ability to rewrite later. A request becomes an instruction. An instruction becomes an expectation. And expectations, once unmet, become justification. The crowd is thin, but pressure doesn't require numbers. It requires momentum. Another uniform arrives, then another. Each one adds weight. Not because they speak, but because they stand. The sidewalk feels smaller now. The exit paths close without anyone blocking them. This is how escalation hides. No shouting, no sprinting. Just a steady reduction of options. The officer speaks about discomfort, about a call, about concern. Words that sound administrative. They carry the softness of procedure while doing the work of control. The man listens. He does not interrupt. His stillness is misread again. Stillness can be threatening to someone who needs movement to justify action. A bottle on the ground becomes relevant, not because of what it proves, but because of what it allows. Possibility is enough. Suspicion doesn't need to be accurate. It only needs to be plausible. The camera catches the subtle change when proximity becomes intrusion. An arm lifts, a hand gestures closer than before. The language shifts from conversation to direction. This is the moment where consent is presumed. The man says no. Not loudly, not theatrically, just no. That word lands heavier than shouting would have. It stops the script. It forces a choice. Authority can step back here. It can recalibrate. It can release the pressure and return the moment to neutral. Instead, it leans in. The choice is made without ceremony. Once made, it cannot be undone without loss of face. A supervisor arrives later, but the damage is already set. Early decisions are sticky. They shape everything that follows. Each additional officer inherits the posture of the first. No one wants to be the one who breaks formation. The man remains upright. He does not fold into apology. He does not trade dignity for speed. That costs time. Time invites scrutiny. Scrutiny makes authority uncomfortable. Silence stretches between exchanges. In those gaps, the camera captures micro-movements. A jaw tightens. A glance flicks to another uniform. Someone checks the position of a vehicle. These are not random. They are preparations. When physical space is claimed without permission, the scene changes forever. It doesn't matter that nothing dramatic happens yet. The line has been crossed. Everything after is about justifying that crossing. The sidewalk is still ordinary. Cars pass. Wind moves leaves along the curb. But the moment is no longer about a public space. It's about control over a body within it. Once authority decides it must win, the ending becomes narrow. There are only a few paths left, and none of them return to where the day began. From the outside, it looks procedural. Words like check and verify float in the air. They sound harmless. But procedure, when detached from necessity, becomes theater, and theater requires a subject. The man does not provide one. He stands where he is told to stand. Then he is told to stand somewhere else. Instructions begin to contradict each other. This is not confusion, it is testing. The test is not about safety, it is about obedience. Each refusal, polite and controlled, removes an option for the officers. They cannot escalate verbally without sounding unreasonable. They cannot disengage without admitting error. The middle path disappears. A hand moves closer again. The camera angle shifts slightly, capturing the encroachment. This is where many encounters turn. Physical intent doesn't need to land to be felt. The body recognizes it instantly. The man's voice remains level. That steadiness unsettles the dynamic. Authority expects either submission or agitation. Calm resistance breaks the frame. More uniforms fill the edge of the shot. They do not take over, they observe. Observation here is participation. Silence signals agreement. No one contradicts the trajectory. The sidewalk now functions like a stage. Each movement is watched. The camera is not just recording, it is stabilizing the man's position. Without it, the narrative would already be written elsewhere. The officers speak about calls and complaints. These words shift responsibility away from the present moment. They point backward to something unseen, unverifiable, and therefore unchallengeable. It's a common move. It creates a reason without requiring proof. The man asks for identification from those who demand it of him. This request flips the script. Accountability feels invasive when authority isn't used to it. The refusal that follows is quick, defensive. It reveals more than it intends to. Time stretches. With time comes irritation. Irritation sharpens voices. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to register on the microphone as a change in tone. The bottle returns to the conversation. It sits on the ground, inert, doing nothing. Its power is symbolic. It allows a new pathway forward, not because it proves anything, but because it sounds like it might. This is how scenes are reframed, not by facts, but by possibilities. The man's space is reduced again. He is asked to perform a task he did not agree to. The request carries the weight of expectation now. Saying no becomes riskier. Saying yes becomes surrender. He says no. That word, again, forces the issue. The officer's body responds before her words do. A step, a reach. The camera captures the moment where intention becomes action. From here, everything accelerates quietly. The officer's language tightens. Shorter sentences. Fewer explanations. Commands replace dialogue. The presence of a supervisor does not reset the scene, it solidifies it. Supervisors arrive with context already shaped by those on scene. They inherit the story as told, not as lived. The man is still standing, still visible, still refusing to collapse into the role prepared for him. That refusal now threatens the coherence of the group. Groups protect coherence above all else. Decisions are made off camera, in glances and pauses. The outcome is decided before it is spoken. Once spoken, it will sound inevitable. The sidewalk has become a corridor. Movement is directed, options are narrowed. The camera records the transition from public space to controlled space without a physical boundary ever appearing. This is how authority abuses itself. Not with spectacle, but with persistence. By choosing escalation because disengagement feels like loss. Nothing about this moment required force. That is what makes the force meaningful when it comes. It exists to preserve a choice already made. After the moment passes, everything feels quieter, not calmer, quieter, the kind of quiet that follows a door closing behind you. The camera keeps rolling, but the outcome is no longer in question. The officers move with purpose now, not urgency. Purpose suggests confidence. Confidence suggests justification. The narrative has been set, and everyone moves within it. The man's requests become procedural echoes. They no longer interrupt the flow. They are noted, not answered. This is not oversight, it is containment. Vehicles become part of the frame. Metal replaces open air. The sidewalk recedes behind reflective surfaces. Public becomes private without consent. Inside the vehicle, the tone changes again. Softer voices, explanations offered too late to matter. This is not correction, it is insulation. Once separated from the scene, the event can be managed. The camera captures the shift in responsibility. Those who initiated fade into the background. Others step in to transport, to process, to continue. The system absorbs the individual act and distributes it across many hands. This diffusion is intentional. It makes accountability harder to locate. The man continues to speak, but his words now travel shorter distances. They bounce off glass and metal. They are recorded, but they do not redirect. Time passes. The setting changes. Fluorescent light replaces daylight. The body cam adjusts exposure. The world feels flatter here, controlled, predictable. Supervisors appear again, but their presence is procedural now, not corrective. They ask questions framed to confirm what has already been decided. The language of review replaces the language of encounter. Some officers soften. They explain themselves. They distance their actions from the initial decision. This is how institutions protect themselves. Responsibility becomes abstract. The man listens. He does not celebrate restraint. He does not offer absolution. His dignity remains intact, which complicates the story others want to tell. Eventually, the momentum slows. Not because someone intervened, but because the system has reached the point where it must account for itself. Paperwork looms, cameras remain, external review becomes unavoidable. What happens next is not visible on the body cam, but the consequences are already forming. They exist in the recordings, in the decisions that could not be undone, in the moment when space was claimed without consent. This is not about one officer or one sidewalk. It is about how easily authority confuses control with safety, how quickly procedure becomes a shield for ego, how silence from others turns a choice into a collective act. The most telling detail is not the raised voice or the step forward. It is the refusal to stop when stopping was still possible. In the end, the sidewalk remains where it was. People will walk it again. Most days will pass without incident, but the recording preserves this one. A reminder that escalation does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, wearing familiarity, asking for just a little more compliance than before. And once given or forced, it never needs to explain itself again.